Welcome to the Trauma Cycle Podcast, an exploration of mental health, trauma, and faith through the vehicle of music, stories, and faith. I'm Nick.
I'm Derek. Trauma Cycle is an album that I wrote and released to process my own trauma that I experienced during the gruesome and aggressive treatments for stage 4 nasal cancer. Now, by God's help, I beat the cancer, and I'm working to beat the PTSD that followed. In this podcast, we're going to listen to the whole album, one song every episode. We're going to discuss the painful stories behind the songs, look for common threads of suffering that we may all relate to, and find the ways that God heals and may still want to heal. And I want you to know that you don't have to be trapped inside the trauma cycle.
Hey, if you're watching on YouTube, give us a like. And if you're listening on a podcast app, would you leave us a review? That would help us a lot. Also, you can listen to The Trauma Cycle by Derek North on Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube, and wherever else you listen to your streaming music. Now, today on this episode of the Trauma Cycle podcast, we are going to be listening to Bleeding on Them. Derek, would you mind telling us a little bit about this song?
Yeah, a long time ago, I had a pastor use a phrase, and many have probably heard this phrase, hurt people. And that's essentially what this song is about. Bleeding on them that never cut me is the line of the first chorus. And the idea is that out of my pain that's caused by something else, I am then causing pain to other people. I got hurt over here, and so I'm hurting you. You did not cut me, but I'm going to bleed all over you, and I'm going to damage you in the process. So this song is about me realizing that's exactly what I was doing to my friendships, to the people in my church, and the sad reality that when you live a life like that, when you're bleeding on those that never cut you, it actually turns back around and hurts you deeper. And I was suffering even deeper shame and like a sense of self-loathing because I realized I'm hurting people that are really innocent. So that's what the song is about.
All right, well, let's listen to Bleeding on Them.
Still remains. Hurt people in their trauma and abuse. Broken people break people. A hangman ties up his own noose. What my anger demands. Black hubcaps uphold me as the rain begins to pour. Twisted fingers
Gotta let that feedback ring out.
Gotta have that feedback. Wow. Man, that song is intense.
You know, it's funny. I almost didn't do this song because I thought the riff was cheesy. Like the main guitar riff that just opens a song.
What?
I thought, man, that's dorky. That's not cool enough. It's not hard enough. And I almost didn't develop the song past the chorus because I just thought it was just a cheesy guitar riff. But altogether, I'm proud of it.
No, that chorus, the riff in the chorus, I love how the bow.
Yeah.
No, not cheesy. Metal. Amazing. But the overall vibe of the song that I've heard is kind of this like wandering vagabond, right? It kind of plays on that I'm a lone guy out in the wilderness chasing the next sunset, right? And you can't hurt me. I'm just gonna go around hurting people. There.
That's a lyric that I should have included.
You should have. Brr. Sorry, this is the last episode of the day, and we're punchy. But you captured that feeling of I've been hurt, and now it's almost this kind of timeless picture of I've been in the trauma cycle, and I've been in the heart of stone for so long that now I'm used to it, and now I'm just taking it everywhere, hurting people. And it's like right before you're starting to realize, oh, this is what I'm doing. I'm hurting people. And it's like the moment before the change. I don't know if that's
that's so cool, man. But I love hearing this stuff. And yeah, it maybe that stuff is subconscious. You know, I didn't necessarily go for that, but it really feels right. You know, when we get to a spot where we're letting our hurts come out to hurt other people and we begin burning bridges and damaging relationships, well, then our life can become kind of a barren wilderness. You know, we start being on our own, you know, being without the community and the friends and the family that we need. They just don't want to be around us because like, that person's prickly. That person always bites my head off. I can't say anything to that person because I'm getting chewed up and spit out every single time. And then I look around and go, why don't I have any friends? Or nobody wants to talk to me? You know, and it becomes kind of a wasteland.
Yeah. So, all right. So tell me the story about when you clearly wrote the rest of it. So you got over you got over thinking that, this is a cheesy hook. So what was that? Take us through the next step in the development.
So I had never heard the phrase bleeding on them before writing this song. And Nick and our good friend Keir Thyrus and I are on an app called Marco Polo. It's like a video chatting app. And I think, is that Keir? That's a big picture of Keir right there. We love Keir.
Right there.
What up, Keir?
Keir Thyrus.
We all three made a movie together called Gray Street. Nick directed it, Keir starred in it, and I did the music for it. You can find that on Amazon, I think.
On Amazon Prime Video.
There you go, Amazon Prime Video. We talk like almost daily, if not every other day on Polo. And Keir was talking about something and how he had been a jerk to somebody or something. And he was like, I was just bleeding on them that never cut me. And I went, what? What did you say? I went back and watched it again. What does that mean? And he's like, it's when you hurt somebody that didn't hurt you. I said, oh my goodness. I've just been hurting so many people. And it just hit me. I've been hurting so many people out of my own pain. And I had all of these experiences coming out of treatment where I just damaged people. And that in turn damaged me even greater. And I just had never put my finger on it. I had never really recognized it, never recognized what I was doing. And then even the negative effects it had on me further. And I thought, I've been bleeding all over these people that never cut me. They're innocent, but that didn't matter. I was a slave to my anger, to my fight or flight response, so that any sort of conflict or tense situation that arose, even if it had nothing to do with my particular trauma, which was cancer, I responded by fight. I shoot him up, I spit him out, I chopped him to pieces. And how unfair was that? And so I was hugely convicted. I was hugely brokenhearted over that. And then that song came like super fast, because I had this well of shame and sadness and sorrow and regret, remorse for all of these people that I had hurt that were only being kind to me, but I was like a wounded animal. And I had to get all of that out, and it came out in this song.
Wow. Well, thank you for your vulnerability with that, man. Thank you for being real and accepting that. So there's a line in it, skin and bones. I think it's in the chorus. Skin and bones, they can never touch me. I thought that was pretty provocative. What is that?
Yeah, I think it's important to know what my character and my role is in this song. I'm the aggressor in this whole song. I'm not a victim. Kind of in Trauma Cycle and Healing is Harder, maybe even some in Mirror, and definitely some of the other songs, I'm dealing with being a victim of these traumatic circumstances and trying to get out of this. Here, I'm the aggressor. I'm the violent one. I'm on the offensive the whole time. Of course, that comes out of my own pain. And so I say, bleeding on them that never cut me. How undeservingly they're martyred for the cause being my anger and my pain. I have to act out my pain on anybody around me. And so you're martyred for that. And that's unfair, but you have to be killed for that cause. And then the line, skin and bones, they can never touch me. It's not an idea of like I'm turned into skin and bones because of my cancer treatment. No, my trauma has made me like an unstable, violent animal, and I'm attacking. And the imagery that I'm trying to, or at least in my mind, bring out is of Holocaust victims, concentration camp victims, watching footage from World War II, where, the Allies come in and they're liberating these camps, and seeing these poor men and women and children tortured and emaciated, so thin that they're literally paper thin skin wrapped around the tiniest of bones, and they're so weak. There's no muscle. They can hardly reach up to like ask for help from the Allied soldiers coming in. In this song, I'm picturing myself as that Nazi emaciating the people around me to a level of weakness like these Holocaust victims, so that they can't touch me, so that they can't raise up an arm to hurt me anymore. But the sad thing is, they never hurt me in the first place. They didn't cause the pain. So I've got this like pain that I'm trying to escape from. I don't want to feel hurt anymore. I have to stop the pain. Well, then I'm wrongly accusing these people of being the source of the pain. And so I damage them, and I emaciate them, and I tear them down with my words, and I make them skin and bones so they can't hurt me. But they're not the ones that hurt me. And then when I realize what I've done, I'm like the friends that I don't have anymore because I treated them this way, then I would just crumble under the weight of my own shame for doing that to innocent people.
Thank you again, Derek, for sharing. This is, like you said earlier, the previous songs were more about how victimizing all of this stuff to you made you feel. And now this, admitting you've taken a hand and somehow, pouring out your suffering that you've received. Like, I'm glad that you've worked through this. And, you have to forgive yourself for that, right? So like, take us through that. Like, you didn't stay in the shame, obviously. So what helped you kind of move through that to receive forgiveness and to move on?
right? Like the last song that we were talking about in the last episode, Mirror My Enemy, how we have to be committed to truth. I had to be committed to the truth of where my pain came from. And my pain was caused by an injury, an illness in my case that caused an injury to the thinking centers of my brain. Um, and so I had to forgive myself and give myself grace, um, that that's where the pain is coming from. And if being committed to the truth of knowing where my pain comes from, then I'm committed to the truth that it's not the person that I see in front of me. Um, and when I had hurt people, then I do believe in relational forgiveness and the necessity of that. And I had to work with, you know, confessing to those people and coming to those people and saying, I'm sorry. This is why I acted the way I did. Would you please forgive me? And then I do believe in forgiveness from God as well. And I had to then come to Jesus and say, I know I was hurt by this external thing, but then I was a total jerk to so and so. You know, that's just part of this whole reality of sin in my life, and ask the Lord for forgiveness again. And so there was multiple layers of forgiveness that I had to work through for all of these situations. And it wasn't until I did that that I could start moving on from this particular layer of my trauma and my PTSD. Because if we're suffering from trauma or PTSD or just any reoccurring like pain scenario, it's multi-layered, and it's not just one thing. It's my identity as I see myself, and it's how I treat other people, and it's how I recognize my physiological and body responses, and all these different things. And this was just another layer to it.
Yeah. So in the second verse, there's a line that says, telephone wires are like razors. What does that mean?
Yeah. So the verses in these songs are dealing with the relationships that have suffered or I have lost because of me acting out of my own trauma and hurting other people. And verse 2, when you listen to it, it might not make a lot of sense. So there's a really sad story behind it. I work as a music pastor at my church, and I probably should not have been working at the time. I was really living in that fight or flight kind of brain. My brain was still in like an injured place, and so it was on high alert, protecting itself all the time. So any conflict was met with fight or flight. And I had some tense interaction with a person that was involved in the music ministry with me, and I got into flight mode. And I started stewing on this interaction from a day or so before. And in the evening, I called this person out of the blue. Person picked up the phone, and it wasn't even like, hey, how's it going? It was immediate. I mean, he picked up the phone, and it was just like machine gun fire. Bop, 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 bop. Why did you do this? What's wrong with you? And I just immediately went on the offensive. And we argued and fought for probably 30 minutes. And it was all wrong. He was totally innocent. I was totally in the wrong, but I was acting out of my pain, and I chewed him to bits. And I burnt a bridge in that relationship. That relationship did not continue in its current form at that time. It's since changed, and I totally understand why that person doesn't want to work with me anymore. And that's fine. What's sad. But I did that. And so I called him up. Telephone wires are razors. I just picked up the phone to cut him. That was my only purpose, was to hurt him. Telephone wires are razors to split your soul right where you stand. I just called him to cut him. And it says, your innocence never mattered. Your innocence, his innocence wasn't worth a lick of beans. And all that mattered was satisfying the demands of my anger. I was a slave to my fight or flight response, a slave to my anger, and a slave to what my anger demands. And then here's the extra sad part. As soon as we got off the phone, I had a total mental break. I was outdoors, so this was evening. This was probably the fall. And it was getting dark, and I was shaking. I was just completely out of control, and I went. We had two car driveway, and I went in between our cars, and I sat down in the driveway, and I leaned back against one of the cars, probably by the tires. And so that's when the line says "Black hubcaps uphold me," because I broke down, and I went and I sat against the back of the car, and I couldn't move. I just locked into a position, and I remember my fingers they twisted up like this, and I sat and I crumpled like this, just crumpled down, and I physically froze, and I probably was out there in that position. I'm not even joking. Hour and a half, 2 hours, and then it actually started to rain on me, and I couldn't move. So black hubcaps uphold me as the rain begins to pour. Twisted fingers lock permanently. And that's when it said, I broke you, but I'm broken more. No doubt that person was angry with me, and rightfully so, and hurt, and rightfully so. But I am so broken that I'm like stuck in this practically fetal position. I remember my wife was calling me, because I just dropped my phone. So I could see my phone. I can see my wife, Trisha, calling me. I couldn't pick up the phone. I heard her come out of the house, call my name down the street. Derek, where are you? Where are you? But I was so broken, I couldn't move. I was flooded. I was stuck. And then finally, she comes out with her car keys. She was going to get in the car and drive to find me, which was not far-fetched. Because there was another time in this season of PTSD where I did actually run away from home, and she found me in a park a ways away. She got in the car to find me because she thought it was happening again, and here I am, broken in the driveway. And she bends down in the rain to collect me, and she literally has to peel. She was peeling my fingers open one by one just so she could take my hand to lift me up. And then she escorted me slowly as I shuffled, so tense, I was locked up, shuffled me into the house, and my fingers were sore for like 2 or 3 days after that. That's the level of brokenness that we can come to when we break other people out of our pain. And that's what that whole second verse is about.
I hate all that stuff. I hate that all of that stuff happened to you, bro. And what an amazing wife you have.
What an amazing wife I have.
Can we give a little shout out to Trisha right now?
Hey-o, I tell people that, yes, the doctors cured my cancer, but I say that my wife saved my life, because she was the one at home. I had 4 little kids at the time, 3, 5, 7, and 9. She was keeping them alive. She was literally keeping me alive every single day, keeping me eating, keeping me, get my medicine in, all this stuff. And then I say that my church kept my wife alive, so she could keep me alive and keep my kids alive.
Very thankful for that community and your wife around you. Something I keep thinking about is like, man, you got to deal with this stuff, because if you don't deal with it, like, you dehumanize yourself, and then you dehumanize other people. And also, I don't know, there's kind of this, I don't know if it's intentional or not, but like, there's kind of this like brashness about the song, right? Like, I'm bleeding on you, there's this, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, the song doesn't seem to have a tone of remorse to it.
No,
the song has that aggressiveness. It has
yes.
I'm biting you, and I'm doing it on purpose,
and I'm justified in this.
Right, as we talked about in the song "Healing Is Harder," where I was then, I'm not now, and that song is a picture of where I was when I was, say, attacking my church friend that one evening on the phone in the fall. I was biting and I was cutting, and I'm coming in hot, and I'm swinging, and I'm on the attack. And that song has to carry a little bit of that sharp emotion all the way to the end, even though the sad irony is I'm cutting myself far more deeply than I ever cut this other person. And I may have hurt that person really deeply. that just shows how much more I've hurt myself.
Yeah. And you need to get out of the trauma cycle.
We got to get out of the trauma cycle. And the way that we do that is to, again, recognize the pattern. There's a trigger that leads to a physiological, a body response. For me, it was heat in the chest and in the neck, maybe shaking as well, a feeling of anxiety. And we have to identify those physical markers in our body. That's our body telling us that our brain's in trouble. And then we can choose a healthy coping mechanism: sleep, a shower, calling a friend, going for a walk, writing music, praying, reading scripture, all kinds of healthy choices so that we don't self-soothe in unhealthy ways, overindulging, drinking, calling people up and chewing them out. That was me doing an unhealthy coping mechanism when I had this trauma trigger. I tore this guy to pieces, and then I broke into self-loathing and like just emotional chaos after that. If I had registered the heat in my chest, the anxiety, the shaking, I could have chosen a different route and exited the trauma cycle there and saved that pain of myself and saved that pain in my friend. So that's how we can exit the trauma cycle that one time. Now, the reality is we got to do that hundreds and hundreds of times. And we can exit the trauma cycle one time for that one instance. And then we'll bump back by another trigger and have to do it again. And maybe do it 3 times successfully. And then one time, you isolate like I do under the covers and watch Netflix all day and ignore all my children and my wife. Well, bummer. Then you have a chance the next time when you get those physiological responses to choose a healthy way and exit out. And then when we're healthy, we can work on applying logic and language and time to those memories so that our brain can refile them as something that happened in the past, and it doesn't come out as our brain is thinking it's happening right now. We're in mortal danger right now.
Thank you, Derek, for sharing your stories and your music with us. Everybody, make sure you join us again for the next episode as we continue to listen through and discuss the trauma cycle. Once again, you can listen to The Trauma Cycle by Derek North on Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube, and wherever you stream your music.
Thank you to you, Nick, my brother, for all your help on this project. To you and your company, Storycraft Productions. Folks, check out Nick Casucci and Storycraft Productions on YouTube and Instagram.
Thanks, D-Rock. And thank you, everyone, for spending time with us. If you know someone that's hurting or could be helped by these discussions and music, why don't you share it with them?
Remember, there's always hope. There's always healing. You don't have to be trapped inside the trauma cycle.
Well, I'm